Why, hello, hello. Welcome to the 11 a.m. Monday morning marketing webcast. I am your host, Chris Bernard from Doc29 Consulting. I hope you had an awesome weekend. We have a very, very interesting case to take on this week. It stems out of a client request from last week that I got, which was interesting. So the topic for today is earn that budget with campaign thinking. Okay, you could probably guess where we're going with this. Um, in many cases, us marketing people set out to do great, astounding, awesome, world changing things. But we all come back to this thing called budget. And we have to surmise and expound to try to get beyond, right, the platitudes of this great obstacle that we have in front of us. And we need data and information. We have historical information. We have the executive's interest in either supporting and understanding marketing and how it needs to drive revenue. And we have people that are just see it as an expense because maybe we haven't done our job in the past in terms of making sure that we're showing value in return. So there's a lot of complexities with it. We are going to go through this because of a client story last week. We built a website for a client, and actually they're a long-time client of ours. They're in the medical industry. And this medical industry client, this group, actually, this physicians group, has 5 or 6 different physicians in it. Okay, and they kind of work independently. So they can start their own things. Okay, well, we started a brand that is an offshoot. It leverages this one physician's current abilities, but it talks about more in terms of, it branches into more of the cosmetic. She's a UTI physician, right? So a lot of urinary tract stuff and things like that. But there's regarding, stress incontinence and sexual problems and all of that, and really trying to get into that brand area. Okay, so we've set up this new brand. We've launched this website, but as with everything, right, you can create it, but unlike the field of dreams, they may not come. Everything has to be promoted and get in front of your guests. So I put together this great proposal because she wanted to do social media. Okay, now the one thing you need to know about this physician is she kind of wants to be in front of people and see her face, but then she really doesn't. Okay, and this is kind of your job in terms of how the output looks in terms of marketing, right? So I was like, all right, well, we're going to go down this path, and we know what it takes to do social media right. So it takes time and effort. So we put together this program, the social media program, that had 2 components. One, foundational kind of elements that need to be there, and that included, a keyword insight report where we build out that massive list of keywords. We identify which keywords drive traffic or capable of driving traffic in her area. And then we actually go ahead and, kind of do like a mini market plan, right? We look at the competition and we say, okay, well, this is how they're showing up. And this is what appears to be kind of unique. We'll pull down some reports from IBIS and kind of figure out, which keywords, who we're going after, all that fun stuff. So we've got a target, right? A marketing persona, we like to call them in technical land, right? So we know who we're going after. We know what her obstacles are. We know where, she feels comfortable. We know what other things she's looking at in terms of making that buying decision, either to work with us or work with a competitor, right? So we position that client. Very important, right? So we understand that. And then basically we start creating content on a website that's optimized for SEO, but then also that provides that foundational piece in order to create the snippets, right, of social media content, including video and stuff like that to drive traffic to it. Make sense? So put together this great proposal for her. It's like a $1,500 kind of setup. And then it's about $1,600 or so, $1,700 a monthly kind of maintenance, monthly, performance, right? So we're actually doing work for it. So we're generating 4 pieces of content every single month. We're promoting those pieces of content, and we're paying for the media at the same time. And we're tracking everything with calls and clicks. So we know what's actually driving revenue, okay? So this is how social media should work. And this gets us a decent ROI, right? Something that we can say, yeah, if we're going to take $1,000 from you, we're going to give you 3, 4, 5, 6x back, right, in terms of that stuff. Well, when I went through that proposal with her, she's like, that's a little more money than I want to spend. I said, well, I just wanted to make sure we walked through the components, literally piece by piece. So she knew what was involved with it. But we're kind of at an impasse, right? She knows that she wants return on investment, but she's not willing to invest it. So that leaves us with the topic that we have today. Okay. So where do we go from here? Well, we said, I'm going to treat these dollars as if they're my dollars, doctor. Okay. So, and her office manager was on the Zoom call as well. So I'm going to treat your advertising dollars. The big question is, how much do you want to spend? How much are you comfortable with? And she's like, well, maybe $300. She kind of just, and it was kind of like that too. So she didn't really even have like a budget number, just kind of threw something out there based on her comfort level. I said, okay, we can do stuff on $300. We have PPC programs, very small PPC programs for other physicians that are $250 a month. Okay, and that includes $100 worth of paid media, but it's $150 worth of management for us. And basically, we track those performance campaigns too. And as long as they're making money, that's great. And we can grow that business over time. So she said $300. Okay, so we can do that. I said, here's the deal. With social, if this was my money, and you said I have $300 to spend, that's going to drive the greatest value. Okay, she is in a not very competitive industry. Okay, so you have to kind of keep that in mind. You have to weigh, and I even told her this on the phone, on the Zoom call. I said, if you're in like mortgage or car buying, right, automobile sales, there's a very different set of scenarios going on here. Okay, this is where you could use a marketing consultant or so to kind of help field some of that data and that information. But net is you're not in a very competitive industry. In fact, these notes I kept up because just for that reason. So wanting to make sure you knew what was going on here. Let's see if I can scooch back without tripping on my cords. So with that piece of information, I said, here's what I would do. Okay, I would invest that in Google AdWords in your business. Okay, so a couple things, and this is where you got to think about how the guest actually comes in. Okay, so should we take a step back? Let's take a step back. Okay, so start small. This goes back to you guys. Start small. Okay, don't get all wrapped up. Understand what you're capable of in terms of a budget. So in many cases, you may have a $10,000, $20,000, $1 million budget for stuff, but you think we need to be doing X kind of thing. Test it, right? Ask for the test budget. Whether that's $300 or $500 or $1,000 over the course of a 6-month period or 3-month period, I wouldn't recommend doing anything less than 3 months. And there's a reason for that, because you launch and you optimize, right, to get that ROI up, okay? So 3 to 6 months minimum kind of test program. So, but you need to make sure you clearly identify your goals. So once you get that, let's say that timeline, that budget, you need to clearly identify your goals and what you're actually working with. Because and get those agreed upon, by the way. If I can show, Bert, if I can show that this is driving this expense of, let's say you give me $500 a month and it's driving this return, can I expand the program, right? Ask for permission. Make sure those metrics are solid, okay? And then you can even kind of forecast what those metrics are going to do, but we're going to get into that in just a minute. Make sure you have clearly defined goals and optimize around those. So you have to be tracking things, right? Your calls and your clicks or downloads or whatever the case may be that's appropriate for your business. And keep in mind, if your sales cycle is a little longer, you're going to have to factor that in as well, okay? A lot of B2Bs have a longer sales cycle, right? Make sure you're looking at the data and optimizing along the way. Caution. And this comes usually not from the technical people, but from management typically. If we're not making changes every day, they're going, what's going on? Why aren't you guys on top of this, right? You have to set expectations. You have to be statistically valid in your decision making. Don't change things too early and don't test too many variables at one time. Some of these basics, I've got a couple books I should probably recommend to you for that. But the concept is don't over optimize. Don't keep playing with stuff and not letting the data come in order to make a valid, statistically based decision, right? So the other one that I often run into, especially with creatives, is don't fall in love with your campaigns, your creation. So we'll have like 10 different campaigns set up, and there'll be like 2 that I just, for whatever reason, I just love, right? Like I just love them. They're unique, they're creative, but maybe they don't get like, maybe they're not getting the return that the other ones are. I want to keep them on because they're beautiful and I love them and I want to pet them and I want to make sure they do a great job and I can nurture them to health. Look, seriously, try to nurture them to health, but if they're not working, keep the pause button on them. They're not helping you. Okay. Maybe you can test them on a larger budget at some point, but all right. Basics. So the third part, so start small, get that test budget in the time period, planning the basics, guys. And we talked about some of these already, right? Know your audience. Guys, I can't even begin to tell you how important this is. Sear it into your brain. If you could sear it into your salespeople's brains and the office managers who pick up the phone, right? If you could sear it into their brains of who this best customer is, and then look at all the rest of these through that lens, okay? So talk to salespeople. Talk to them about what's working and what's not, or what's interesting, or what kind of things are really important, right? Talk to your team. Pull some of those reports that we were discussing from like IBIS or Tertiary. You can Google almost anything. And by the way, you can Google stuff, but then also use like DuckDuckGo. You'll find the results. There's some great stuff there, guys, that you can actually use to say, I can literally put that on, right? Do a survey of your best customers. We've done this for clients as well. Why did you not buy from us? But also your best customers, why do you continue to buy from us? What makes you excited about what we're doing here? Okay. And why do you keep coming back to us? And then obviously incentivize them, thank them somehow, right? But here's the deal. All of that to tell you to do this one thing. As you kind of craft this strategy, right? As you craft it, put on the part. Like go to acting class, go to acting school. If your target is a mom with 2 kids, one about the age of 7 and one about the age of 2, and she's coming in at 11 o'clock in the morning, and try to get into that environment, like literally play that search. If she's coming in, if search is going to be your method of contact, play that search. Since you have done some of your homework already, put that on, like try to act that out so that you can get an understanding of the complexities and scanning, and there's kids screaming, or, she needs to start lunch and she's already behind, or the baby just threw up, all those kind of things. Try to get that acting in place so that when you do the search, you're looking at it as best you can, even as a 40-plus-year-old guy, through that lens. All right. It's going to make your campaigns really, really sing. And you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of fluff that you can remove and strike out. And there's going to be a real unique point or two that you need to communicate really fast in that ad, whether that's a text ad or video or social media post or whatever the case may be. So playing the basics, that's the first one. Know your audience. So this is part 3, but section 1 of part 3. Plan your basics. 2, know your keywords and concepts. Look, don't use Google's estimator tools. Pay us for a keyword insight or do your own keyword insight. Build out as many possible keywords you could actually think might be appropriate or queried into Google. Okay. And I'm not talking like several hundred. I'm talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, because every product variation, all that can be tested with phrase match, run a standard test, and let it run for like a week and see which keywords are impressioned the most. Turn off, obviously, the ones that kind of bubble up to the top that may not be right in that wheelhouse for you. But keep the ones on that need to be on and look at that test. And now you know which keywords to go after. Say, oh, yes, I'm going to go after this one and this one, but not this one, not this one. It's too broad or whatever it is. This one, yes, this one, no. Get that list of keywords. So when you're sitting there trying to be that mom and you're saying, okay, I've got the kids going on here. I'm going to do a quick search. What am I looking at? Am I looking at recipes or what am I doing here? Okay. You can get in that mindset a lot easier if you know which keywords, because out of the millions of keyword options, 2 or 3, 5, 10, 15 are going to be the ones that rock your house. Okay. When you do that, now you've got your keywords. You can actually look at the search results and you can determine what your unique value proposition. Knowing that Google search is bringing up my solution set, I can go in and I can see which keywords or which competitors are there. And now I can have an honest visual shopping experience, quote unquote, right? My company versus my competitors. Okay. And I can actually highlight and feature the things that make us unique and the things that seem to be kind of standards that everyone has to play in, right? But I can highlight and feature the things that matter to my business. That means know your competition as well, right? Also, as we kind of mentioned before, know the nature and competitiveness of your industry, right? Some industries are going to be very simple. Basically, they just learn to turn the computer on, or they start using directory sites to make their decisions, or it's a traditional sales network, right, where everyone knows everyone else, and it's a B2B kind of situation, right? It's a different type of strategy than, let's say, a shopping experience, right, where I'm buying pizza or hot dogs or, digital equipment or something, right? You have to understand what complexities there are in your industry. The last component of planning the basics, know that media channel, okay? So because you've done your research, you know who you're targeting, you know which keywords are important to her, you're going to go ahead and understand your competition. But here's the deal. Know which media channels she's likely to use, okay, and how she uses that. And I say she, it can be a he, okay? But keep in mind, even if it's a big company at a B2B channel, right, there's still people, individuals behind there that have a digital history. And that's what you're actually targeting, okay? So know the benefits behind each media channel. I'm going to bring up something on my screen here because we're going to expand on this little media concept here. This is from Statistica, 2021, by the way. Even though it says 2018, the data was actually updated on 2021. So this is ROI by media. Return on ad spend by media. Okay, so for every buck you invest in something, there's a return, an expected return. The Good Doctor was looking at trying to see a massive return off of social media, and I was suggesting her that that's probably not going to happen the way that she wants to do it. The users are just not in that mindset for her product base. But this may help other people make decisions about what they need to do, right? So TV has a 6.5 return ad spend. So, we're talking 6, we're talking 6, we're talking 5 to 1. We're talking 4 to 1. We're talking about 5 to 1. And then we have digital search. 11. Guys, if you're going to give me a buck and I'll give you $11 back, wouldn't you rather have that than 5? I mean, that's still good, guys. It's still good. But this is why, like this doctor's I recommended this doctor. Literally, guys, digital search is where it's at. Why? When people are on Facebook and Instagram, they're there for a certain particular interest, right? Something drew them there, okay? The fact is, they're not in the mindset as close to the mindset that you choose, in many cases, them to be. In digital search, where they're typing that on their phone or they're typing it onto their laptop or their iPad, they're telling you where they're at, and they're telling you what they're interested in, and they're telling you about how serious they are about buying your stuff. I don't care, to be quite frank with you, I don't care how good Facebook's signals are, okay? That is a guest telling you, raising their hand in a big auditorium that they need your stuff, and they're actively searching for it. Like literally they're actively searching for it, like right now. Now, granted, Facebook will use that data later on, and Google will use that information later on to send ads your way and stuff like that. But this guest is actively interested in right now in a spot that you care about. That's going to convert higher. This data just substantiates that theory. Okay. So that's where we're going. That's where this really did kind of come into play with this specific client is if it's my money, doctor, I'm going to tell you how I need to, I'm going to tell you what I would do with it. Right. So I'm going to go to paid search. All right. And I am actually going to go ahead and recommend a couple things for you. So like in this case here, for those that suffer from these really tight budgets, and some of you might be doing search already, you might be spending large amounts of money in search, but you're like, we're missing a specialty in the business, right? We're missing whether it's a green technology or a new product line, or because you did keyword insight, maybe there's a special interest, or because you saw some interesting articles about trends, or went to trends.google.com and did some research and said, these product areas are going to light up real soon. Look at this, how this is elevating, right? There's some type of digital signal that's encouraging you to go ahead and explore that, all right? So this is how I left it with the doctor. How much are you willing to spend? She said about $300. I said, well, this is what I'm going to recommend you do. Okay, can you give me 6 months on this program? At least for a campaign. We probably won't need that long. We'll probably need about 3 months for it. But either way, it didn't really matter for her. So we are going to do Google AdWords. We're going to still do the kind of like the keyword insight. We're going to kind of test those keywords to find out which ones have the greatest value. Okay, we're going to go look at that. We're going to recommend, get this, ready? Are you ready? The whopping one word. One word, one keyword phrase, and there's probably going to be 2 very closely related keywords that are going to drive the traffic. Now, we did ask about her specific products and what she wanted to push and what she thought was most interesting leveraging her background, and we agreed. I think that makes sense. So we're probably going to be doing this 1 to 3, one primary term and these 2 very closely related terms, and we are going to be building out that optimized web page for conversions. We have our call to action. We'll likely have a short video snippet because people love video. Okay, and yes, this is on a $300 budget. I'm talking through this with her. This will be optimized for SEO with the header tags and all that fun stuff. Okay, now the goal is this, that one, it'll show up in the organic rankings, right? But also we're going to be doing the paid search. Again, on that one term, probably to like, there'll probably be not just the one term, there'll probably be about 10 to 15 very closely related PPC terms associated with that one term, but we're going to be closely monitoring that stuff, okay? And if the budget seems like it's getting squandered, we'll probably tighten up that radius a little bit. We're going to look at some of those areas of efficiency. Maybe there's a keyword, specific keyword, a keyword phrase that's not there. We need to use a negative on that, right? Because it's drawing traffic in and it's not going to convert, even though it might be appropriate, it's just not converting. And don't fall in love with your creation, okay? So the net takeaway of this is after all this is said and done, since we are tracking, I do want to mention one thing. We're tracking with, the actual lead form to book an appointment. We actually have a phone number that's assigned for tracking. You guys need a company to do that. We use call tracking metrics. There's an MP3. You can do notifications and alerts on it, so you know exactly what came from those campaign buckets. Okay? So that was call tracking metrics. The good doctor also said because, and this might help a lot of small businesses, by the way. So are you ready? In fact, I should probably pull it up because I don't know the name of the company. There we go. Okay. So one of the things that's really important, especially if you're a single practice owner, and like right now I'm on a call and no one's getting a hold of me right now. It's being answered by a company, right, with a live person, okay? The problem with it, we have a client that is, that basically their job, their time is their resource, right? So if they're in appointments 80% of the day, those people that call aren't leaving voicemail messages. 2/3 of his clients, prospects, don't leave voicemail messages. And of the ones that do leave voicemail messages, they won't leave voicemail messages. They'll keep calling. And we can see that from the call tracking report, same person. Call tracking metrics tells us that. So he's like, what am I supposed to do? We recommended to change his voicemail so at least it assures the caller of some things, but he's not willing or technically able to do that. So another great solution, which I'll talk to him about today at 4:00, is specialty answering services. For like $50 a month, they actually do full answering phones. Hello, thank you for calling, Doc 29 Consulting. My name is whatever. How can I help you today? And they take the message down. I get an email, I get a text, and I get the MP3. from that conversation. So literally I can see the summary and I can call back right away. Okay. Great ability to track things and improve performance for clients. And we will be doing that with her as well, because that was a concern, considering, again, she's part of a larger physicians group. We're terrible at answering the phone, she said, about some of these specialty businesses. So we're going to allow that to get queued into a proper way so that can be addressed immediately. So all of that to say, again, so many of us really know or want to do what's best for the business, right? And we go in it with these high hopes of getting this nice big budget approved, and it gets shot down out of the sky. So I want to challenge you to get into the campaign mindset, right? Campaign thinking. And then we can earn that, and then we can grow the business from there. So like in this case with this specific physician, we're going to earn the business at that level, and we're going to be able to grow it to other practice groups and expand that based on some of those things that we're able to show work and work well. So I hope today's edition helped you. We are here every Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, of course, at the 11 a.m. Monday morning marketing webcast. We usually have some type of interesting fact. I would love to have you subscribe to the channel. You can go to marketingwebcast.live and subscribe there with the button. You can also go ahead and subscribe to the channels, either on Facebook or YouTube, and you'll get those notifications as well. So really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Go get them, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a great week. Bye-bye.